Hello scientists, my name is Brad Bishop.
And I'm Houston.
This is my son. Today we're going to be doing a project called the High Voltage Rising Arc with using 50,000 volts of AC electricity. And it's also commonly known as the Jacob's Ladder project. So to go over some of the materials we're going to be using, we've got right here, what do you got, Houston?
A capacitor.
We got a capacitor. This one is a 370 volt AC 3 microfarad capacitor. You probably want to use either 2 or 3 microfarad. Make sure that it's rated for at least, if you do it this route, 120 volts. In this case it's 370. You don't ever want to go lower when you're dealing with voltage ratings. And then right here we've got just a regular old dimmer switch, just like you have in your house. Regular old dimmer switch. A spark plug wire. This is very important because it's a high voltage wire, and when you're dealing with 50,000 volts, if you try to use some of this other little wire I have, the insulation is not so great, and you can feel the electricity straight through the wire. So just make sure you use a spark plug wire or high voltage wire. Alright, this is an ignition coil, regular old ignition coil from a car, right?
Yep.
About 15 bucks, something like that, used. I was able to get this one for free from O'Reilly's Auto Parts. They were nice enough to just donate it to me. I asked for one, I was going to buy one, and they said, well, hold on, we got one in the back. After I told them what I was using it for, and they said, here you go. So here we've got a regular extension cord, and I've cut off the female end, and what I've done was I've run the hot wire of the extension cord into my dimmer switch, and then another wire coming out of my dimmer switch. Put this little connector on there so that way I can connect it to my capacitor. So you want to run your hot wire over to your dimmer switch, then from your dimmer switch to your capacitor. Then from your capacitor, you want to run to your positive terminal on your ignition coil. Positive terminal to the other side of your capacitor. So now we've got from the wall to our dimmer switch, from our dimmer switch to our capacitor, from our capacitor to our ignition coil. Okay. Now your neutral wire from the wall, from your power source, goes over to your negative on your ignition coil. And then from there you jump off and you go over to your copper rod that you're going to use for your Jacob's Ladder. And this is just 2 pieces of the 6-gauge wire that I cut and just bent it to a little fork. Copper tubing or whatever, anything will work, conductive. So from our negative terminal over to our copper wire, and then you've got your high voltage output on your ignition coil. And that's this top part right here. That's the business end. That's 50,000 volts right there.
Yep.
And this is, of course, this is dangerous. 50,000 volts plus all the resistance in the circuit could equal enough amps to seriously hurt somebody. So if you don't have a good understanding of electricity, I would not recommend trying this. You don't want to touch the end of this wire. You don't want to touch these forks or that capacitor. That capacitor will hold the charge. I have this drain wire here. Every time I use this, I have to touch the contacts, both the contacts, because it'll stay charged and it'll hit you with everything it's got if you don't discharge. Okay, so our high voltage output with our high voltage spark plug wire. Now I'll touch this other fork I've got right here. One more time, we've got our hot wire to our dimmer switch. Then from our dimmer switch we've got a wire going to our capacitor. our capacitor to our positive terminal, our negative terminal to our wire, to our fork, to our ladder, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and then our neutral wire from the wall over to the negative terminal. We're going to share that terminal. And then our high voltage output, follow it around to our other fork. Okay, that is our setup. If you like a schematic, send me a message on Facebook and I will draw you one up, and any other information you like I will be glad to give it to you. So we've got our contraption plugged in, everything's set up. I don't know if you can hear the humming sound, but everything's cranked up. We're plugged into the wall, and now Houston, will you do the honors and give us some volume? Okay, so now that all the fun's over and the we're unplugged, let me show you. I'm going to discharge this capacitor. See, so once you see your little spark, then you are discharged, so you can safely handle it after that. So the big factor here is, once you got everything hooked up, is your gap between your two forks. I mean, the top you can't go more than 1 inch. The bottom you want to have, you just have to play around with it a little bit until you get the right gap. So thanks for checking out our video. That's our Jacob's ladder. One final note: me and Houston are not responsible if you get hurt during the making of your own Jacob's ladder, and we hope you do not certainly get hurt. So here in a couple weeks we'll have another project coming up. Haven't figured out what we're going to do yet, but hope you check it out. Y'all take care.